Thank you, Bella. Greetings to all participants. Greetings to the panelists. Special greetings to my friend Salim there. Um, uh, the PAL network is a coalition of 17 civil society organizations across three different continents. And in the last years, we have been learning how to come together and to raise the importance of foundational literacy to all children in the world, especially children who are in this common area that we call the Global South. Organizations like ITA or Pratan in India and other organizations in Bangladesh and Nepal, in many other African countries, they came together to have a say to different stakeholders about foundational learning. So what we have learned was that although we could provide evidence about low foundational learning skills for our children, the fact that the assessments were somehow different, the instruments were different, it made somehow difficult for us to speak at one voice. And that's why we jointly decided to come up with common instruments that will allow us to speak at one voice. Those are the instruments that Bela also called the new generation of assessments in the family. And we are talking about the ICANN instrument, which is the International Comparable Common Assessment on Numeracy. And these have been piloted since 2019, and we have run also large-scale assessments using these tools in the last 3 years. And the other one is the PAL Elana tool, which tries to combine pre-primary and the primary competencies in one assessment tool. And this was designed and run with a digitally adaptive process, allowing us also to have data on real time, on very easy way, although the costs of administration increased somehow. But the beauty of all these tools is that they are both aligned to global frameworks, aligned to global proficiency frameworks, aligned to minimum proficiency levels as defined by UIS. And we are trying to make them align to report to SDGs. But on the other hand, it's very important to ensure that whatever we are measuring makes sense to national governments, to the people in those countries where our members are established. So they are the tools, the instruments, they are both aligned to global framework and the national curriculums of those countries, which gives us possibility to engage with national governments, with regional institutions, and with global institutions as well. And the tools also allow somehow comparability between different geographies that are involved, which at the end of the day makes our voicing together much easier, because what we are reporting can be related to other countries who are involved. So our aim as a network is really to make sure that civil society voices, parents' voices are heard in national discussions, but also in global discussions about foundational learning, bringing sometimes a perspective that is different from the official narratives we get from our governments, and playing a strong accountability role about the prioritization of foundational literacy and numeracy. We are also trying with these tools to reach new levels of inclusion. and we are happy to see that our next assessment, which will be run hopefully in 15 countries, will also start adaptations to include the children in emergency and to assess social-emotional learning apart from literacy and numeracy. Now, our action is somehow spread globally in 3 different continents, in Asia, in Africa, and in Latin America. But we have been following the African discussions also very closely as part of the Global Coalition on FLN, but also as part of the African movement that was established essentially after the decision by the African Union to indicate the year 2024 as the African Year for Education. And we started a very interesting journey of engaging civil society, engaging donors, engaging government, engaging the African Union institutions to see how can we collectively prioritize foundational learning in the continent. Because when we see the statistics, I think this is the continent where the problem of poor foundational learning is felt the most. And in that process, I think there are 5 very consensual areas that we can see growing in the continent. One is the increase of government commitment to invest more in foundational literacy and numeracy. We saw from a conference organized last year in Arusha for East Africa region, and the Flex conference that we organized in Rwanda, more and more countries participating at the high level, and more statements from government representatives that we need to increase investment on foundational literacy and numeracy. And that's really something to celebrate at this stage. The second is a push for a declaration for a decade for education in Africa, which is coming from different sides to try to solve the problem with foundational learning in the next 10 years. And the belief that this is doable during that period. The third area is also a consensual push to use existing and proven methodologies to improve foundational literacy. There are many proven pedagogies, approaches, including structural pedagogy or teaching at the right level, that have demonstrated ability to improve foundational literacy in very short periods of time. So stakeholders are now trying to mobilize the continent to adopt those proven pedagogies to be introduced in the mainstream education and improve foundational learning for all children. The fourth area is the need for more data. As we speak, the SDGs were adopted 10 years ago, and you may know that it's only now that we have the framework for reporting for SDGs. The criteria for reporting for SDGs were just adopted recently, 10 years, and we are just 5 years down the line to 2030. So assessment should not be the end in itself, but it helps to bring the reality to the table and to ensure that we do have relevant evidence to continue pushing for building the foundations of literacy and numeracy. Although reporting to SDG is very important, it should not be the end in itself. Our assessment should catalyze actors to invest in more alternative ways to improve foundational learning. But data plays a fundamental role in all those options that we are talking. And finally, the importance of increasing parental engagement and societal engagement. The problem is huge, and it cannot be left to governments alone. As much as we try to bring on policies, it's important also to legitimize this process with involvement of citizens, of parents, and all other stakeholders. And this piece is becoming also very noticeable in the current discussions about foundational learning in Africa, essentially. I will stop there and allow also for more questions and discussions later on. Bella, thank you.